Today, we are jumping into Daggerheart, the brand new fantasy tabletop role-playing game from Darrington Press. So if you've been a little curious about what makes this game tick, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to break it all down right now.
Alright, so first things first. The entire game is built on one core philosophy: rulings over rules. What does that mean? It means the game is designed to put the story first. It wants the game master to make calls that keep the action flowing, instead of having everyone stop to look up a tiny rule. It's all about empowering the table to tell a great story together.
So here's how we're going to do this. First, we'll cover what Daggerheart actually is. Then, we'll dive into its super unique dice system, explore how you build a character, see how a session actually plays out, and then we'll get a little peek at the incredible worlds you can explore.
So, what is Daggerheart, really? At its heart, it's a high fantasy TTRPG, but it's built for the long haul, for long-term campaigns. The focus here isn't just on slaying dragons, it's on crafting these really deep, character-driven stories that grow and change over tons of sessions. Okay, now let's get to what I think is the game's biggest innovation, its core dice mechanic. This is so cool. It's not just about a simple pass or fail. It's about how every single roll you make pushes the story forward in really interesting ways.
The whole system is called duality dice. So anytime you want to do something, you roll two 12-sided dice. The first one is the hope die, and that represents your character's skill, their luck, the chance for something good to happen. The other one, that's the fear die, and that represents the challenges and complications the world decides to throw back at you. And what's really fascinating is how these two dice play off each other, because you're always rolling both at the same time. A high roll on that hope die, that can earn you a hope point, which is a resource you get to spend later. But a high roll on the fear die, well, that gives the game master a fear point, which they can use to make things a little more dangerous.
But, for all this cool narrative stuff, finding out if you actually succeed is still super straightforward. You just add the numbers on both dice, add your character's modifier, and try to beat a target number. Simple as that.
And this, right here, this is where the magic of the system really shines. Let's say you succeed. The question is, how did you succeed? Was it a success with hope? Amazing. You do what you wanted to do, and you get a hope point. But what if it's a success with fear? You still succeed, but now there's a complication. Maybe you pick the lock, but a guard down the hall hears a noise. See? The story always moves forward, just never quite how you expect it to.
So who are you going to be in this world? Character creation in Daggerheart is this really rich, layered process. It goes way, way beyond just picking a class. It's about building who your character is and where they actually come from.
It's basically a three-step process. First, you pick your ancestry, that's your physical lineage. Then you choose your community, that's all about your cultural upbringing. And finally, you pick your class, which is your adventuring profession. Each of these layers just adds a whole new dimension to who you are.
And the options are just fantastic. I mean, your ancestry defines your physical form. You could be a fungrel, who's literally connected to a massive fungal network. Or a powerful, cow-like furbolg. Or how about a galapa, a turtle person with a giant protective shell. Or even a winged seraph, touched by the divine.
Next up is your community. And I love this. It's totally separate from your ancestry. This is all about your culture. Were you slyborn, maybe raised in a criminal underworld? Or were you highborn, used to a life of nobility? You could be a tough ridgeborn from the mountains, or a studious loreborn from a place of great knowledge.
And then, the final layer, you choose your class. This is what gives you your adventuring toolkit. Your spells, your fighting moves, your special skills. This is where you decide if you're going to be a mighty warrior, a sneaky rogue, a powerful sorcerer, all those classic fantasy archetypes.
Okay, so we've got our character, we understand the dice. How does an actual adventure play out? Well, it's all about this constant ebb and flow of action and consequence, and it's all driven by that hope and fear mechanic we talked about.
The gameplay loop itself is super intuitive and really focused on the story. The GM sets the scene, the players ask questions and poke around, they decide what they want to do, and then they make that roll. And based on the outcome of that duality dice roll, the scene changes and the story just keeps on going. It's like a constant conversation.
Now remember those hope points you can get from good rolls? This is what they're for. Hope is basically the player's currency. You can spend it to give yourself a better chance on a roll, maybe re-roll a really bad result, or even fuel some of your class's most powerful dramatic abilities.
And on the flip side, of course, there's fear. This is the GM's resource, and they can spend these fear points to really raise the stakes. Maybe a new squad of enemies shows up out of nowhere, or a monster uses a terrifying special power, or the ground itself suddenly starts to crumble.
It makes the world feel so alive and reactive.
A great system needs a great world to play in, right? Well, Daggerheart gives you several campaign frames. These are basically fully fleshed out settings ready to go, designed to kickstart your adventures and give your story its own unique flavor. First up, you've got the Witherwild. This is a setting all about survival. You're in a land being eaten alive by a creeping magical corruption that's twisting everything into monstrous shapes. It's a really desperate fight to save a dying world.
Or maybe you want to jump into Five Banners Burning. This one is all about spies, diplomacy, and political intrigue. You're basically agents caught in a cold war between 5 huge nations, and every single choice you make could tip the world into peace or total war.
Feeling like a little sci-fi in your fantasy? Check out Motherboard. It drops you into this post-apocalyptic world where you're scavenging amazing tech from a mysterious fallen civilization, all while fighting off the killer robots they left behind.
And then there's Colossus of the Drylands. Think fantasy western, but instead of just dealing with outlaws, you're dealing with the awakening of these city-sized creatures. It's all about being a tiny hero facing an absolutely impossible threat.
So really, what this all comes down to is this. Daggerheart is a game where the story is king. The mechanics are built from the ground up to make sure that no matter what the dice say, something interesting is going to happen. Success and failure, they're just new chapters in your character's epic story.
So, with a system that creates drama out of every single roll, and all these amazing worlds just waiting for you, the only real question left is the one you see right here. What story will your dice tell? Thanks for tuning in.